Good morning. I'm Judy East, and I'm the chair of the Nevada County Council of Sierra College Foundation, and we are happily sponsoring these community forums. The foundation works with the Nevada County campus, and we put about $20,000 into the campus each year to help students and programs. Among the programs that we've had have been scholarships. We managed to have 5 Osher scholarships for Nevada County students only. We also just last week had a 7th grade day where we invited 150 7th graders from the lowest socioeconomic schools to come on campus to spend part of the day to see that they can get to college just in their backyard. We have also sponsored art shows and the lecture series. We are creating an alumni association, so if any of you have ever attended Sierra College, there's some information on the table over there. And if anybody would like to be a community member on the council, please let me know. I would like to remind you where the exits are, over here, back behind you, and then one through the curtains there. With respect, we acknowledge the Nevada County campus of Sierra College as the traditional and unceded homelands of the Nishanan peoples. For countless generations, the Nishanans have carried out their responsibility as stewards of this place, originally known as Daspa. Sierra College commits to an ongoing relationship with the Nevada City Rancheria Nishanan tribe and their future generations, who are an integral part of the Sierra College community. We are recording this today, and we have a few other recordings of our community forums. We will be posting that on the Sierra College Foundation website within the next month or so. Also, we will not have a forum next month. We're taking December off. It's a very, very busy month. But we will again, and I think, Brian, you'll say something about, we'll have one in January. So enjoy the forum today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Judy. Well, welcome to Nevada County Community Forum. My name is Brian Hamilton. I'm going to play your host today. And we've got a discussion lined up with waste management in Nevada County. There's a lot going on with waste management in Nevada County right now. And I want to make sure that we get to as much as possible with this discussion. So if we move along a little bit quickly, I apologize, but there's a lot to cover. And I know that after we've finished our discussion with some questions from the audience, our folks here are also going to make themselves available to answer any questions afterward. So with me today is Larry Picard, Waste Management District Manager, Shavati Karki-Pearl, Waste Management's Public Sector Manager, and David Garcia, Nevada County Solid Waste Director. Please welcome them. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit at the beginning about the relationship between waste management and Nevada County and how this works, because obviously they're two separate entities, but they have a very similar goal in mind. So if we can maybe start with that, David.
Sure. Well, thanks for clapping. I usually don't get an applause. So, I mean, in real simple terms, waste management is our contract hauler and contracted to run the McCourtney Road Transfer Station facility. And really our community partner in making sure that folks' solid waste is collected, properly, and that we're meeting our diversion goals and, future state mandates like SB 1383, which I know we're going to talk a lot about today. But as our contractor, we work very closely with them on a sometimes daily, sometimes weekly basis to ensure customer service, to ensure that, again, all of those community needs are being met. So, from our perspective, again, a community partner, but also our contractor.
I was just going to say, some jurisdictions have their own solid waste department and services, like parts of Sacramento. So some jurisdictions contract it out. I just wanted to clarify that.
And what is the extent of the contract? How far out is this actually, the partnership in place?
Go ahead.
Yep. Well, I should say this too. I am the only full-time solid waste person in Western Nevada County. So that includes the jurisdictions of Grass Valley and Nevada City, which have their own separate contracts. I'm the only full-time guy. So in our contract, we do rely on waste management to help us provide these services Again, maybe more than a jurisdiction that has a full-time staff that does a lot of oversight. Like Placer County would be a good example of a jurisdiction. They run landfills. They do lots of other activities. We have a relatively simple program because we have a closed landfill and services. I don't know if that answered the question. But.
Sure.
And our contract runs through 2032. So we have about 8 more years left on our contract.
But the planning is going far beyond, with the new project and everything as well, it's going far beyond that date, I would imagine.
Yeah, and as David said, we have individual contracts with the county, with Grass Valley, and the city of Nevada City. So there are 3 separate arrangements, yeah.
And as far as that goes, as far as the McCourtney Road Transfer Station goes, and the projects for the McCourtney Road Transfer Station, I'm getting to hold the mic closer sign. So the McCourtney Road Transfer Station is owned by the county. It's a county facility, and regardless of what happens in 2032 when we rebid the contract for solid waste services, that facility belongs to the county. So that project is being done, as a county project. The county's lead on that project, and as a community facility. So those are kind of 2 separate issues. Right now they're the operator for us, again, contract operator of that facility, but it's a county facility. And on top of that, we have the closed McCourtney Road landfill, which we're regulatorily obligated to maintain in a safe way. So that's another part of the facility out there that we also take care of and maintain.
Very good. Well, I thought another area we could quickly hop over to is the process of recycling that we're all doing at home and before we come to the transfer station. And just to give you a quick look at what that process does look like currently, maybe not this facility, but others. We do have a video real quick just to show you why it's important to start that separation as early as we can.
We all know it's a good idea to recycle. But what happens to that aluminum can or all that paper after you put it in the recycling bin? Where does it go? What does it become in its second life? How does this water bottle become a backpack, jeans, or shoes, or even a WM shirt? Let's find out. This is a material recovery facility, or a MRF, and this is where the real work of recycling begins. Here at the MRF, the WM trucks load all their material onto what we call the tip floor. Next up, a trip to a massive conveyor belt that takes all this material to a pre-stored room. Here's where sorters work by hand to remove stuff that should not go into the recycling. Stuff like batteries, plastic bags, Christmas lights, clothes, pretty much anything that can clog or break the MRF's equipment. Or worse, hurt one of the employees. Now that we've minimized contaminants, the real story can begin. Cups, cans, containers, and bottles are separated from newspaper and other paper materials. Then comes the eddy card. This part is pretty cool. An electric current zaps the aluminum off the conveyor belt and into a metal-only stream. All these materials are separated and compacted into bales, like hay bales. Forklifts move the bales into a finished product area where they inspect it for quality. Once they get the thumbs up, these bales of metal, plastic, and paper are shipped around the country to different companies that give them a second life or turning it into new stuff. This process is all about creating this circular economy where everything is being reused and recycled so that less stuff ends up in the landfill. Last year, WM recycled 10 million tons of material across 103 facilities like this one across the country. That's amazing, but we can do even more, and you can help by recycling right.
So our recycling here goes to a similar facility in Sacramento. It looks exactly the same.
The recycling goes there. Where does the trash go? It's something we always think about. Where does my stuff end up here?
So the trash gets hauled to a landfill that we operate and own in Lockwood, Nevada. They've got one of the largest and longest areas as far as length to be able to hold material and bury it, and so that's where it goes for the trash. Our green waste currently goes down to a facility in Lincoln called Green Solutions, where they take our green waste and green waste from all over Placer County and other counties, Butte County. And then once we incorporate the food waste, it's going to go out to a different facility that is permitted to take that material and turn it into compost and mulch and things like that.
And that feeds right into, this was the reason I called you guys to begin with. One of the topics I wanted to cover was the project at the transfer station. I thought it was all put in place so I didn't have to sit in my car and wait, in long lines and that sort of thing.
That's part of it.
That's great to hear too. But the food waste, Senate Bill 1383, that's really the big driver behind a lot of the changes that are happening at the facility. If you guys want to talk about what that's going to entail, it's a $22 million project. That's a really high price tag. Who's paying for that? And is Nevada County fully funding that? Are there any grants being made available for that purpose as well? How's this coming about?
So we've actually been preparing for the McCourtney Road Transfer Station project for many years. So we've been saving up funds. Most of you guys probably know that there's a parcel tax. It's pretty small. I mean, it's like $30 a year for most residential properties. And that money is used at the facility. So it's used for the closed McCourtney Road landfill, and it's also used for improvements to the transfer station facility. Again, county facility, county-owned property. And so we've been saving up for that project. Another portion of funding came from Waste Management. So when we entered into the franchise agreement in 2012, Waste Management committed $5.6 million towards improvements at the McCourtney Road transfer station, some of which we've already used to improve the existing PRA, because that's going to become our future organics waste building. So, we're talking about SB 1383. SB 1383 is a state mandate that requires all jurisdictions throughout the state to have a food waste or mixed organics waste program. So we have to, start processing food waste. The current facility, we don't have any place to put that material. It has to obviously be handled similar to how our trash is handled now, where it has leachate collection and cover and all of those things. So, we originally started this project because our existing facility's 30 years old, and we've already, exceeded the original design capacity for that facility. So if you see long lines at the facility and other issues at the facility, a big part of that is because it's old and needs to be updated. But as we were doing the project, things like the recycling market crash, things like SB 1383 came up, and we needed to make sure that our project was going to address those needs. And essentially what we're doing at the McCourtney Road Transfer Station is we're trying to design and build a project that has the most flexibility for the future, right? So essentially we're building a large open building, about a 40,000 square foot structure that we can change processes, we can change equipment, we can change stuff inside that structure, but the building itself is designed to be flexible. And we're greatly adding, so we're doubling our scale capacity, and we're keeping the existing scales for operational purposes. So instead of having two scales, one scale going in and one scale going out of the facility, which is the bottleneck, we're going to have a scale facility with 4 scales, 2 in, 2 out, and the existing scale facility for operational purposes. So we're greatly expanding that. And then we're going to repurpose the existing PRA, again, which already meets the requirements for storing organics waste, as our mixed organics facility or food waste facility. So a residential customer will probably see, we will have a 3-cart system. So if you have a green waste cart now, not much is going to change. If you don't have a green waste cart, you will, because SB 1383 requires that we provide 3 carts to customers. So that'll be the base level of service. And that green waste cart will become a mixed organics cart. So your food waste will go into that cart. It'll go to the McCourtney Road transfer station, where it'll be segregated in that existing PRA. And then it'll go to, most likely, Ostrom Road, which is a composting facility. I'm not sure if that's too much information or too little information.
No, that's great. Going back a bit though, and I use acronyms way too often. The
Yep.
PRA, these folks might not.
Yep. Sorry. Public receiving area. It's the trash drop-off area.
The dump.
Literally.
No, it's not a dump. It's a transfer station. We're rebranding.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned some of the improvements the customers will see in terms of efficiencies and things like that. With these programs as they're being implemented, they're not free. Obviously, you're making an investment. What is the public going to see? Are there going to be fee increases on their side as well?
So there's not going to be any fee increases associated with the transfer station project. Again, that's already funded, and we've already been working on and saving for that project. So that project's funded. There will be fee increases for collection service. So we have to add an entirely new route for collection. Right now, green waste is being collected every other week, and that organic bin is going to need to be collected on a weekly basis. So that is an increased cost. In addition to that, the tipping fee for food waste is much higher than the tipping fee for green waste, clean green waste. So just ballpark examples, clean green waste goes to Lincoln, I think it's something like $40 a ton for tipping fees plus hauling. Food waste is more like $100 a ton, depending on what type of contamination you have. It could be more.
130.
So just as a matter of scale, it's more expensive to deal with food waste. And so absolutely those costs are going to increase. Again, what we're trying to do is a few things. One thing is for senior or low income folks, we're trying to develop a program that takes that into consideration. The second thing is, again, if you already have an existing green waste cart, your cost increases are going to be smaller. If you don't have a green waste cart, then yeah, your service is going to be more expensive because we're adding an entire level of service to your base plan. And so unfortunately, there are additional costs, and rates will reflect that moving forward.
Tipping fee.
Tipping fee is the cost that we have to pay to drop material out of processing facilities. So Nevada County, we have a transfer station, meaning all the material that comes to our facility gets transferred to various processing facilities. And those processing facilities have costs associated with them. So trash is one cost, a tipping fee. Green waste would be another tipping fee. Food waste would be another tipping fee.
Just making sure it wasn't gratuity, that's right.
Brian, I wondered, did you want some background on SB 1383
Sure, that'd be
for
great.
the folks so they know where and how it came about?
I had not heard of it until you and I talked, so that'd be great.
So just a few quick facts. This is, California likes to be the leader in recycling and sustainability, especially where laws are concerned. It leads with the laws in order to make us a more green state, I believe. So SB 1383 was implemented to be rolled out in 2021? No.
January 2022.
22, thank you. I just blanked out there for a second. 2022. And the reason behind it is CalRecycle did a study. They found two things. One is a large methane is one of the more dangerous. It's apparently 80% more harmful than carbon dioxide in the air as far as pollutants are concerned. And secondly, they found that the third largest cause of this pollution are landfills. And so they said, how do we take food out of the landfills? Because they're rotting there and they're causing methane. And then another factor was they looked at food insecurity. There's a lot of food that is edible, that can be canned stuff, things that could be edible that are going into the landfill, that if they diverted that could actually go towards helping people get food, those who don't have food. So that's some of the background of why they came up with these laws. And the only other thing I would like to add is even though landfills are a huge generator of methane, folks can go to our sustainability, sustainability report for 2023. A lot of our landfills, we capture the gas, and we use that gas to make CNG, which runs our trucks, or to make electricity, which is then locally, sold back to the cities where they are to light as much as small cities up. So just a little background.
No, very good.
Yeah.
I'll add one little fact. I think 20% of the waste stream is estimated to be food waste.
Yes.
So that's what they're trying to get at, is that 20% of the existing waste stream that they believe is food waste.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, I mean, what's that going to look like for customers? I mean, you're in your kitchen, you're making dinner. Practically speaking, what does that look like in terms of separating? I mean, what's going to go in the food waste? What's going to go into the trash still?
So one of the things that is complicated about SB 1383, and one of the reasons why jurisdictions across the state are struggling with this so much, is that each facility that takes food waste has a different criteria or standard for what they accept or what they don't accept. And so we are going to, like I said, probably use Ostrom Road, and one of the things we're working on right now is establishing that baseline for, okay, what goes in the organics waste bin and what doesn't go in the organics waste bin. But that won't be driven by us, it'll be driven by the facility where our material goes. And the other thing I should mention is my expectation wouldn't be that folks wouldn't home compost or that we wouldn't have community programs. It would be probably a multi-pronged approach to how we deal with this. But the one thing that's going to happen is folks are going to have to get more sophisticated, like they did when recycling came to California, right? So a lot of states don't recycle, and I just went back to Maryland earlier this year, and I had my recycling. Where's the recycle bin? No recycle bin. So I'm programmed to recycle. I grew up recycling. It's common in public places to have recycling. It's common for me to have a recycling area at home. But that's because I've been programmed and trained to do that. And food waste is going to be very similar. If folks aren't doing it now, that's going to be a paradigm shift. You're going to have to now segregate your food waste, and whether that be a pail on your counter, or whether that be I take it out and throw it to my chicken. I mean, whatever that means for you, that's going to have to be something that folks get used to. And it's one of the things that 2024 is going to be a really big effort in outreach. This is kind of the beginning of that effort, but we're really working on an outreach plan to try to target the different aspects of how do you do this, what's acceptable, all of those questions.
I just wanted to add one thing. So a lot of people in Nevada County, as we're reaching out and talking to people, we find are really ahead of the game in terms of diverting food, from restaurants giving food to local farmers to individuals composting, which is great. So a big question that arises often is, hey, I'm already doing this, and now you're going to place a bin here for me, which I don't want to use, or I don't want to. The thing is, it's the law that is asking us to place these carts in your homes. The other thing, so don't blame WM. The other thing is there are a lot of people who do true composting know that not everything goes in your compost. You don't put animal products, you don't put some people are they only put leafy greens and fresh material and not so much cooked food. And I'm not I don't know the details, but I know people who compost, they have do's and don'ts. So all those things that don't go there, soiled paper, food soiled paper, for example, all those things still need a place to go, which is not in your compost.
One of the recurring topics that come up every time I mention this.
Yeah.
What about the bears? We put these out there. We've got problems now. What's this going to do once this happens?
So, I understand the concept of that question. But in actuality, you're already putting it out on your curb. You're just putting it in your trash can. Now you're just going to put in your green waste can. So it's just going from one can to the other.
You can still put it at the bottom. No, she said at the bottom, so I said you can still put it
Well, I
at the
think the
bottom.
bears can smell it whether it's at the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be mixed with the clean green waste,
Hopefully
so
it'll be
hopefully you
mixed
can
with
layer
clean,
it.
So I'll mention a couple of other things because this comes up. And one of the things that we really push back on, so rural Nevada County, we have a lot of folks that self-haul. We probably have one of the biggest self-hauling, per capita jurisdictions in the state, right? And, you work with Waste Management, and they're like, your transfer station, I hope you know, is really busy for the size of your community. So we're not saying, folks can still self-haul, and we're also taking into consideration the fact that there are a lot of inaccessible properties and, properties on, private roads, etc. So first thing, that's still an option. The second thing that for me is maybe an ancillary benefit to everyone having a green waste cart that has waste management service is the aspect of more folks having access to the green waste part of it. We only have about 50% of our folks signed up for green waste right now. And as a fire preparedness thing, as just a community benefit, I think everyone having a green waste cart, you may not sign up for a green waste cart, but if you have it, you might use it. And so I'm hoping that there are other benefits on top of food waste. And the other thing that I will mention as far as cost goes is this concept of if you're doing a great home composting program, if you're segregating your food and that's 20% of your waste stream, you might find that you need a lower level of service than you have today. Mm-hmm. And so that might also be part of the cost equation that we're looking at.
But essentially, with this, you're starting the composting, so to speak, from the curb. This is something that you're going to be moving along toward. You mentioned earlier the downturn of recycling, or maybe you call it the bottom drop down, I'm not sure how you refer to it, but when the big changes happened in the recycling industry a few years back, one of the questions I hear a lot, it used to be a question of how much of our garbage is being recycled. And now sometimes it seems like how much of my recycling is actually being recycled. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think that perception is important as you're asking people to do more sophisticated separating. What's happening currently on the recycling front?
And I feel very sad. Sometimes I go out and we do a lot of events. My colleague Laurie is here. She's in every event out there. And we answer a lot of questions, and sometimes people ask, does our recycling actually get recycled? And I'm like, oh, it does. Because there are a lot of misconceptions out there. So I got some numbers today just to share. In a month, on an average, we have about 40,000 tons of trash, out of which we have about 14 tons of recycling. And organics is about 10 tons. So when it comes to diversion, our transfer station is obviously where a lot of people take their green waste and their recycling, and not just what we pick up. In our transfer station itself, we have about 55% diversion, which is a really good number. That means half the stuff that comes in there by people bringing in their stuff, there's 55% that's recycling. With our hauling that we pick up at the curbside, it's a little different story. So I think residents have to do better, because in our residential areas, recycling is about 33%. So yeah, I'm surprised too. I was like, I thought we were good recyclers here. And then if you average it out, I think, and you include larger stores like grocery stores and all, they do some recycling, but they also backhaul. So a lot of things get taken by the companies that bring their stuff. They also take it back, especially a lot of plastic bags, film and other things that are recyclable. So on an average, our community's recycling percentage stays about 43%. And California as a whole vacillates between 38 to 45. Last year was, I think, 40%. So as a county as a whole, we do good. And yes, folks, your recycling does get recycled.
So I'm going to add to this a little bit. So recycling and how we recycle and what we recycle is not as much driven at the local level as it is by, state, regional, national economies. So one of the big things in California and actually across the United States right now is this concept of how do we get to some of the proliferation of single-use plastics and some of these other materials that are in the waste stream that, although they are technically recyclable, they're not being recycled. And in California, again, kind of like SB 1383, we're probably one of the leaders in looking at this. And one of the big pieces of legislation that recently passed was SB 54, which is essentially getting at the manufacturing of material. And so it's saying manufacturers have to, A, recycle material that's actually recyclable and recycled, and that they have to invest in markets to make sure that that material is recycled. And that's something that they're working on legislatively, writing the regulatory text as we speak, and something that will hit Nevada County and all the jurisdictions throughout California. So again, once it hits our waste stream, this proliferation of plastics, I mean, it's hard to deal with. How do you recycle a product that nobody wants, that there's no market for and no processing facilities for? It's very tricky. And so it's a challenge for all jurisdictions, and again, something that probably needs to be dealt with at the beginning of the chain.
You're talking about the economy's driving a lot of the uses after things are being recycled, and I'm just wondering.
Well, and before too, if you downcycle, for example, a plastic bottle, right? 15 years ago, those were thicker and more recyclable material, and they downgrade the quality of material. I mean, we constantly see this where the quality of the product gets less and less and less and less until you have to collect 3 times as many of these to get the same product that you did before. So the cost benefit to recycling gets tipped when producers produce lower quality, basically throwaway material. And everybody that uses Amazon sees this, right? Your box is full of this nothing plastic that's incredibly difficult to deal with. And so, I mean, at the beginning of that process, they need to be thinking about, is this material that we're using gonna be able to be recycled?
And if they do that, does that help folks build an economy back with the buyback programs? I mean, what's going on as far as that goes now? Because typically, I mean, in the past, people would collect their recyclables, there's some extra pocket money for them or something they would save for. What opportunities are there now locally for buyback? And is there anything like that at the transfer station?
So buyback is a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
And frustrating for us too. So the CRV program is completely separate from single-use plastics and SB 54. CRV, California Redemption Value Program. It's the bottle bill is what they called it when they passed it in the 80s. And it, like a lot of pieces of legislation, is outdated, in a huge need for revamping. But what really happened in 2016, the recycling markets crashed, and the bottle bill program essentially fell apart. So I think it was something like, I can't remember the exact number, around 500 CRV recyclers closed shop almost overnight, including the recycling facilities in Nevada County and Sacramento, but in particular in rural jurisdictions. So we are not unique in the fact that we lost our recycling facilities. We are unique in that we happen to have a recycling facility at the McCourtney Road transfer station that remains open because it's contractually obligated to remain open. So it's part of our program because we own the facility and because it was part of our contract with Waste Management. But those other facilities were run, and typically the CRV program is run by private businesses. Replanted, I think, was a really big one that had a lot of those. And so there's plastics, and then there's the bottle bill or CRV program, and the state's working on that as well to try to make that program function better. In fact, I was on a conference yesterday talking about some potential future grant programs in late 2024, but that's a whole nother issue. And yeah, we're frustrated with the bottle bill program, generally speaking.
I actually just last week, if you guys are on Facebook, there's a group called Waste Not Nevada County, and I shared an article there, which really explains this issue really well. And it talks about how when California passed that law, they hope to generate economy by having businesses start taking the CRV, and then the state would redeem them also for running the business. But their math, like David said, didn't work out. They ended up with a balance of, $583 million that were not distributed, and during COVID, over 500 centers closed down. So the business for individuals to do that did not pan out. They were losing money. So when we're running our CRE program at the transfer station, we're losing money. We're doing it at a negative balance, but we're committed to doing it because it's part of our contract. And also we want there to be a place in the community, but to have more than one is not feasible at the moment.
And so you guys understand, because we do get this question a lot, the Bay Area or Sacramento. So one of the challenges with being a rural jurisdiction is the cost for us to do these things is more because we're further from processing facilities and markets. Mm-hmm. So the material we collect here, we have to haul to Sacramento, which is where processing facilities are, where markets are, so that they can get on trains or whatever it is to go to where they need to go. So it's more expensive in rural places for us to do some of these things than it is in populated urban areas with lots of density, with access to infrastructure and transportation corridors. And so that's one of the things that we struggle with in all of our programs. So SB 1383 is another example of, if you live in Los Angeles or if you live in the Bay Area, it makes sense to invest in a $50 million project to biodigester or project, because you have 20 million people to spread the cost among, and 50 or 60 jurisdictions. In Nevada County, it's not that simple. We have to spread the cost over a relatively small population base. We're, again, not close to markets. And there's other issues too with how, we live in a beautiful place, which also makes it challenging to do some of these projects. So it's complicated here, and in rural jurisdictions in general.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to add is the state placed the responsibility on grocery stores, for example, where you go buy these bottles and cans and you should be able to go return it at the store or within a certain, a mile radius. And again, because of the same reason of the high costs of this, a lot of grocery stores cannot afford to do it. They would rather pay the fine that Cal Recycle imposes on them for not doing it than running the program. So just to give you an idea about that.
You were talking earlier about the, Larry.
I just wanted a quick mention. We also run a secondary CRV buyback center up in North San Juan. It only runs once a month, but it's geared for all the folks that are up there, so they don't have to travel all the way down here and across the river and back up the hill.
One thing you're talking about with the project at the Courtney Station, leaving some flexibility for future uses. Things change. A story that a steering committee partner of ours forwarded to us from the Wall Street Journal talked about how AI could be a driving force in saving the recycling industry in terms of automation and technology. We saw in the video I'm not sure exactly, the electrons that were identifying the aluminum and then
electromagnetics,
and then kicking it into a separate bin. Some of the talk in that story was about the fact that some facilities might have 40 people sorting these conveyors, and with that kind of technology, as AI develops, you can see 4 to 5 people as opposed. I'm just wondering, as far as like the footprint that Waste Management has in Nevada County in terms of employees and that sort of thing, how many employees are there currently there, and do you see AI changing, that kind of technology changing the workforce at the transfer station?
So in order for that to happen, the county, along with whoever they partner with, would have to build a sorting facility, which is another significant cost. Currently at our MRF, material recovery facility down in Sacramento. It's getting ready to shut down for about 6 months and getting a total revamp of all their equipment, state-of-the-art equipment. And it's starting to introduce some of this technology, and we're being told that it can pick out, recycle much more than just having sorters there on the line. So there will be a lot more material captured to be able to be recycled and baled up. Whether we can find a manufacturer who wants to buy the material is a different story, but at least we'll have that. So in order to have, again, at the transfer station, it would be a pretty sizable facility that would have to be built and maintained. With the current staffing at McCourtney, we couldn't run it. We'd have to hire that many more people to staff it.
So I just wanted to add, beyond AI, there is technology that really impacts the way we run our business and is, adding more and more efficiencies every day. And it starts with our trucks that are picking up the trash, for example. So now we have what's called smart trucks. And before, just starting with automation, right? Before we had individuals who would get down, grab your trash, but now we don't. We have arms and it's all automated. If you sit in a truck, it's got all kinds of tablets and, almost like you got to be a gamer to be able to get I was like, how do they not miss the cart? It's not easy driving those trucks. It's more than just driving a truck. And they have cameras. So one of the things the cameras are, again, state requires you monitor for contamination. So when the trash is dumped, it actually videotapes your trash can. And if there are items in it that shouldn't be there, you'll get a letter saying, oops, you put something that shouldn't be there. So education. So it's helping us with educating our public on what should and shouldn't be in there in the first place. The second part is then, we're talking about where the sorting facilities are. So throughout COVID, when all these recycling stations recycling had come to a halt and a lot of places were shutting down, WM was investing millions of dollars in recycling and is still continuing to. Again, I urge people just look at 2023 sustainability report for WM and you'll get a lot of information. And then technology in the landfills. I talked earlier about us being able to capture gas. That's huge. We try to capture as much gas as possible to convert it into other products that can be used. And then things like our documentation for the state, for the county. We have to document every piece of material that comes through our doors. Talk about the sheer volume of numbers. And that's all done with the help of, again, technology and different software that's monitoring, that we're plugging it in. We got so many cans, so many bottles, so much metal, so much hazardous waste, and all has to be recorded. Like those numbers I gave you were, just the end result of that. Our monthly report looks way more intense. And then customer service. So just like everybody else, that's a really good example of customer service. You can go online now. You can chat with the virtual chat assistants. You can, every day there's new features coming along. So soon you'll be able to go and say, I want to cancel my cart. I want to order my cart, and it's you can do a lot more self-service. And the list goes on and on, technology. It just is aiding us tremendously. I think we're doing questions later.
While you were talking about the smart bins, and your smart bin broke the lids on my can.
We can, they're going to stick around afterward. We can talk about those one-on-one type of questions. Would be great. But one quick question. Dorian, I was going to ask if you had that timeline that we saw on there. As I was looking through this, obviously the dates, some of the dates have already passed. These are the state mandates as far as when things are supposed to be implemented. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things I wanted to ask you guys about. What kind of timeline are we looking here? Because to my understanding, there's no facility yet.
Yep.
So therefore, where are you going to collect?
So, and this is something we work very closely with CalRecycle. And we're not unique in that SB 1383 timelines are unpractical, and that's one of the state recently, the Little Hoover Commission released a report evaluating SB 1383 and SB 1383 implementation, and basically said the way the state implemented and wrote SB 1383, the goals are unachievable. There's, especially rural jurisdictions, with lack of infrastructure, lack of funding, all of these issues to try to come up, because it's essentially $2 billion unfunded mandate. And these facilities are not easy to site or permit or build, and they're not cheap. So in Nevada County, we're actually ahead of the game in that we were working on this project, and that we're going to have a project in place at the end of next year. So we're hoping that all of this program starts at the beginning or January of 2025, and that's what we're shooting for. So our facility will be in place, and that'll give us 2024 to do, a really big outreach effort. In addition to Waste Management being our partner in outreach, we also have a company that's helping us with SB 1383 and SB 1383 outreach, another consultant. And so we're going to be doing a big push to make sure that when we implement these programs, the community knows what the programs are, how they work, what the expectation is. And then there's other elements. So in addition to the fact that we don't have a place to segregate food waste, SB 1383 has all kinds of other requirements that aren't just related to collections, like inspection and enforcement, which Shavati mentioned. Waste Management's a partner in helping us do that contamination review that CalRecycle requires, but the county is going to be responsible for making sure that folks are doing the program, and the legislation is very specific about how that happens. So we're working with our environmental health department. How do we incorporate this into our kitchen inspections? How are we doing our edible food recovery programs? So there's so many elements to SB 1383 and SB 1383 implementation that all jurisdictions are struggling. And I'm on the board for RCRC's ESJPA, which is essentially rural counties looking at solid waste issues. And I'm also the vice chair on the SEAC committee that looks at solid waste issues. And I can tell you, these are universal concerns. We're all very frustrated with, I think, the lack of clear direction and realistic timelines. And again, that was born by the Little Hoover Commission report. So our plan is January 2025.
There's a lot.
It's a lot.
You guys are going to be dealing with, and a lot for the folks to adjust to. So maybe the extra time actually ends up being a benefit as you're doing the education on this. But I started to think about, what is the biggest challenge you guys feel like you're facing with implementing all this? What is the major roadblock you guys have to?
I'll start and then you guys can. So, and this is something we already struggle with. Education and outreach is very difficult, and I think it's gotten more difficult. I've been working for the county for, I think, almost 17 years now, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to get to people, right? I mean, you can send mailers, most folks throw that away. You can put stuff on Facebook, some people will find that next door. I mean, there's so many ways that people digest information that getting to everybody is incredibly difficult. And that's one of the reasons why, again, we're really trying to develop a multi-pronged approach to getting the message out there. And so I think that's always the most difficult thing when we're adding new programs, changing programs, implementing new services, is getting the message out and getting it out early and often, and making sure that folks have the message before the program goes into effect. And even when we do that, there's going to be a lot of folks that are frustrated, that don't know how it works, that need more clarity or information. And so that is an ongoing thing. I mean, we still deal with this in recycling, and it's a question we get all the time. I never see that outreach. I think Waste Management's done how many events this year? I forget.
A lot. 25.
20, 25 public events. We post stuff in media. We post stuff on social media. We post, so much effort trying to get the message out about recycling, and it seems like only a small percentage receives it, because I think you need to be you want to receive it, right? So we have a group of folks that get every message, and we have a group of folks that we just can't penetrate, and so that's going to be a challenge. I think that's a big challenge, at least on my end.
Yeah, and on the service end, our biggest challenge is going to be equipment. We're going to have to add 3 trucks, 3 drivers, tens of thousands of carts, getting those carts ordered from the manufacturer, having them time to manufacture and deliver them. Delivering all these carts out to these customers is going to be done all in one fell swoop, and logistically it's going to be a challenge. We've already started working on it and have plans in place and timelines, so we're ahead of the game, but 2024 is going to be a very challenging and busy year for us.
And by the way, new routes. Maybe I missed your house today.
New
Maybe
routes,
new drivers.
Routes are going to change them from where they are now. Some people will have day changes. All this comes into effect and into play when they're adding probably 11,000 more customers.
That's just in the county, though.
Yeah, that's just in the
Not
county.
counting Grass Valley.
That doesn't count the Grass Valley is
Maybe a couple more thousand.
probably not even that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one reason I was very excited when we got talking about the opportunity to have the forum is because this is exactly the kind of topic that we want to share with people so that they are aware and can discuss these sort of things. And with the discussion, I'm ready, if you guys are ready, to open it up to a few questions here. Now remember, we do want these to be focused more of broad topics, and if you have anything that's more one-on-one individual, you can stick around a little bit after.
You can go front to back, maybe.
Yeah, let's just start right here.
In Europe they have silage cars, and why don't we, for bulk management and everything, why not use the rail line to move your bulk instead of using trucks all the time, which clog the freeway and wear and tear in the pavement, and in fact there's a food recycling facility right next to the tracks in Fairfield Sassoon, and I've ridden Amtrak quite a bit because I helped start the Capital Corridor, and I see this facility all the time, and I know from talking to people, they feed into the wine country for fertilizer. I mean, that makes so much sense, and where my father's from, they even have cars for surge transport, because they don't have individual surge, septic tanks all over the Alpine region.
Okay. So what about other modes of transportation for these besides the trucks?
So I worked in roads for 8 years-ish, and unfortunately not an expert on railroads, but I can say that the reason probably is that it's probably a lack of infrastructure. I mean, for where we're at, that's probably not a practical solution. In some places, maybe where you have easy access between facilities, connectivity between facilities using railroad. I mean, my guess is that some places it's more practical than others, and Nevada County is probably not that place.
Well, if this new rail line I'm advocating, we'll be able to get around UP not doing it.
Very good. Sure, go ahead.
This comes from a Firewise point of view as far as the green waste. I know the Fire Safe Council has had real successful green waste days. The county did some dumpsters. We had some containers up on Banner that were filled within hours. Has there been any discussion about a more robust or less cost, or what's the discussion on it's just such a fire-related thing?
Oh yeah, and so, I mean, the county's been a really big partner with the Fire Safe communities and Fire Safe Council, I should say, and we went after federal grants and other grants to help us with our free green waste events. We collect about 3,000 to 5,000 tons of green waste through our free collection events every spring, and those programs have, I think they've been very successful to the point where we've seen a decrease in the material going to McCourtney Road Transfer Station and an increase in that free stream that we track. And so it's multi-front, right? We're working on fire preparedness and expanding and maintaining our free green waste programs. But the stuff that goes to the McCourtney Road Transfer Station, there is a cost to process that material, and so that's a real cost that unfortunately exists. So we're trying to hit both. We're trying to keep green waste affordable at the transfer station, but also provide those free or low-cost solutions.
I hear you talking about the things and the problems that you all have, but I haven't heard any community outreach efforts at this. For example, I'm a master gardener in Nevada County, and years ago I attended a conference on vermicomposting, where you feed your little things to little worms. Several waste management programs sent representatives there to learn how to do vermicomposting so that they could encourage their citizens to do this on their own. And I didn't get an idea about statistics, but it was fairly impressive what they could take out of your problems by having the community do this and teaching them how to use this for their own use. So is there any effort to, and years ago, I don't remember which group it was, supported our Master Gardener program with a compost grant, and we had to teach compost, we had to have so many classes, all this sort of stuff. That fell off. There's a lot your community can do on their own to reduce your problems.
And that's, I think, part of our plan is, so we have started the outreach effort, right? We recently did.
Where have you started it?
That's what I was going to say. So we've been going to community events. We've actually just did a similar forum to this with Waste Not a couple of months ago. This event is another outreach effort. But moving forward, one of the things that we are going to do is try to work with existing community groups to help us spread this message and help us with these programs, right? So it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. The county is not going to be able to solve everyone's problems, just like we can't solve everyone's problems for anything else. And so the groups like Master Gardeners are going to be an incredibly important partner.
Like the FFA, 4-H, all these.
Of course.
If you could reach out and get their encouragement and their buy-in, I think there's a significant reduction in the amount of work that you all would have to do.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is very valid. And just as an example, in January, we're working with the superintendent of schools, Nevada City Superintendent of Schools, and we're hosting a forum to start. We're doing it very systematically. So we're starting a forum just to get the schools online so that they know what's coming and how to set up their programs.
What way coming online about how to sort things or
everything,
compost?
Everything. So we invited, and they've offered to use some of the schools as a pilot program, and that includes not only sorting and getting their themselves and their students and their staff ready for the 3-bin system, but also other efforts because some of them have gardens and in the schools and other areas and how to compost it. And I believe we did send out an invitation to the Master Gardeners.
I hadn't heard
Yes.
anything about it.
I didn't
No, and we're supposed to hear it.
Okay.
Well, you guys now
So
have the people.
we'll connect with you
We'll exchange cards,
because
okay?
because we only know who we know, and we've invited all the agencies that you talked about so that they can come and give their feedback, and it's going to be a brainstorming session. We're not telling people what to do because WM frankly is a contractor
She's
that
our boss.
picks up stuff for you.
They're a
You
hauler.
know, they're a hauler. But we're holding community forums.
So the outreach continues.
Continues.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
A couple of quick questions. You mentioned that if you already have a yard waste cart, you're good to go. So that means food waste goes into the yard waste cart.
Will, when we start the programs
Yeah.
in January 2025.
Not now.
I mentioned that because we get people asking
I know,
that.
no, I'm getting
Will,
ahead of
will.
myself. But then I'm a little confused because you talked about 2 facilities. So if we're commingling yard waste and food waste, which I think is okay, because food waste is still going to be a small fraction of the yard waste in general, couldn't that just go to one facility? And then if you separate it and give people just a food waste cart, that would go to the Osterholm facility? It's a little confusing.
So the facility we currently, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by the 2 facilities, but I assume that we currently take our green waste to a facility called Green Waste Solutions or Green Solutions and more in Lincoln, and they don't take food waste or mixed waste, I should say. And Ostrom Road has they've I think invested something like $5 million in a composting facility, knowing that SB 1383 was going to come and that jurisdictions were going to be required to use this. So in the future, our mixed organics are probably going to go to Ostrom Road, but remember that thing I said before, where it's $40 to tip clean green waste, and it's significantly more expensive to tip mixed waste. So there probably still will be clean green waste that goes directly to the transfer station that will go to a facility that has a cheaper rate for, and I mean, it could even be Ostrom Road, but just segregated so that it's clean green waste and not mixed waste.
And
Facilities change over time, by the way. So, I mean, what facilities are available to us may change.
got it. And can meat products go into, are they considered food waste?
So,
Potentially.
Meat bones?
again, Ostrom Road will give us the list.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
right behind you.
Currently, I put out 2 cans every week. One is the trash, and then the alternate can is either green waste or recycling. But it sounds like down the road that the green waste can, because it's going to have food waste in it, is going to be out there every week.
Yes.
So are there
Correct.
some weeks I'm going to put out 3 cans?
Yes.
Oh, what's
So every other week you'll put out 3 cans, and every week you'll be putting out those 2.
Let's go right behind. Karen.
Thank you. Again, this question is about the composting, and the plastics. So there are, like at a Briar Patch, they do have compostable bags for you to put your produce in. And I just got an order from, I forget which company, because anyway, they have compostable plastic bags, like those bubble bags, but it says right on it, it's compostable.
Yeah.
So
So would those go?
I mentioned SB 54, right? So this is a huge part or a huge issue. So I was at a conference yesterday in Oakland, and the presenter was talking about SB 54 and talking specifically about compostable plastics.
Yeah.
And they did a survey. So I think there's something like 40 facilities across the state. Cal Recycle surveyed the facilities to see which of them accepted compostable plastics. And I think of the people that responded to the survey, which was maybe 26 facilities, 1 was taking those compostable plastics. The problem with compostable plastics, I guess, is that they don't break down at the same rate that they need to turn over the compost. So typically it takes about 2 months to make compost, and it takes longer than that for compostable plastics to break down. So what happens is you end up getting pieces of forks and bags and stuff in your compost, which, as you can imagine, is not something you want in your food, because that's what people use compost for, gardens. And so that's the challenge. And SB 1383 may get at that problem, because if folks are manufacturing compostable materials, then one of the requirements of SB 54 is that they are 60% composted. So in other words, that they are compostable and that they are being composted at least 60% of facilities. And if they don't meet that requirement, you can't use them.
The only thing I would add is if you do use compostable stuff and you put it in the landfill, in your trash, then it's probably still better, because it will compost and break down faster than 500 years that takes a plastic to break down.
Yeah, they're better.
But it wouldn't go into your
It wouldn't
recycle.
work, it wouldn't work to put those bags into the recyclable bin. You should put those in the trash.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's one other thing. There's where you can take, there's a company, and again, Briar Patch has this thing where you can bring in bags of certain types of plastic.
Yeah.
That they're actually using to make, building materials out of.
Yeah, Save Mart does the same program.
Mm-hmm.
The company, they send all their plastic in, and plastic bags and single-use plastics is a company called Trex, and they make decking and stuff like that. So a lot of grocery stores, not just locally, but throughout California.
So take your bags back to Save Mart.
Yeah.
Any grocery store.
Yeah, most of the grocery
Most
stores
of
have
them.
that same program.
Yeah.
All right, one more. Right here.
Okay, I'm a master gardener, master composter. I worked for a local government in the Bay Area, and my job was waste management. And it was 10 years ago, we had stickers on our bins, so you knew what to do.
Mm-hmm.
We had brochures, so you knew what to do. We were teaching kids in the schools. They came home and taught their parents what to do. People here just don't know it. I don't get that, but if you're from the Bay Area, you get it. And I don't understand. And we could put food waste.
So few things. SB 1383 requires that we put stickers on all of the bins, and that's something that we're working on. As you can imagine, that means that essentially we have 35,000 bins currently out that need stickers. That's a huge effort, right? And then we have another 11,000 bins that are going to go out. So over the next year, that's something that we're going to be working on systematically, starting to knock those off and get those stickers on bins. The second thing is school programs. So we have a couple of different school programs. The county uses grant funds to work with a company called Eco Heroes. I wish I had their video because it's amazing. They sing songs in costumes. Don't be a little bug, songs. And so the county funds for them to go into schools and teach educational programs. In addition to that, how many schools has Waste Management visited and taught in this year?
At least 10 to 15.
10 to 15
yeah.
schools. So we have both Waste Management and
it's
a separate funded program to get at youth, because I agree with you. I think the way that we get this done is not going to be with people that don't want to hear the message. It's going to be with young people. Yeah. And, my son's one of those kids that comes home and goes, you guys wouldn't believe who was here today,
Yeah, and
an Eco Hero.
To the flyers comment, we do send out mailers. Most of the time with people's bills, but we know a lot
every
of that.
Quarter.
That extra stuff with the bills just kind of go out.
Sign up for notifications.
But Lori goes out to all these public events with 20, 30 so far this year, and she's got flyers with her at all those single events. So
sign up for notifications.
Yeah.
Not just because they'll tell you if you're missed pickup, it'll also give you weather delays, it'll also give you other information. So I would encourage folks, because a lot of folks opt not to get information, and then we can't send information, or Waste Management can't send information.
Yeah.
So opt in.
I was going to say, all these ideas are great. It just comes back to what David initially said, is reaching individuals. So we're trying to do it in mass as much as possible. We have flyers that go out every quarter. I get e-bills. I don't even look at my e-bill because I have it on automatic payments. So if you're getting an email with your invoice and then a little link in there saying read the newsletter, nobody's probably doing that. So we have a lot of challenges. And that's why we're doing the school forum. We're doing a lot of forums. We're doing, so we're trying. But
if you have a community group and you want us to come talk,
we're
always available.
Yeah.
Great questions. Thank you very much. Afterward, if you'd like to pose a few more questions, they're willing to stick around and take those. Just one more question for the three of you, something a little more fun, because we do like to meet you people a little bit more as a neighbor.
Oh.
No. But when you're away from all the work and everything, what do you like to do to enjoy where we live?
So my wife and I run a martial arts school here in Grass Valley, and we have for about 13 years. So we're usually busy doing martial arts stuff. But if not, I like to go to the ocean. That's my favorite place. I know that's not exactly where we live, but as a lifelong Californian, I love the ocean. And then I also love to go camping, of course.
Thank you.
So, and don't throw stones at me, but I actually live in Sacramento County for the time being, until this interest rate and housing gets situated. So I play a lot of soccer on my own time, but as far as here in Nevada County, as most of you know, we have 2 remote transfer stations, one in North San Juan and one in the tiny little town of Washington. And I always look forward to at least monthly going out there and doing site inspections, and just the drive to those 2 locations, just the scenery just on those drives. If you get off the beaten path, there's that much more scenery, but just the scenery going down Highway 20 up to Washington is just amazing. You guys have a very beautiful community here.
Well, I think for us, it's two things. One is we live in Alta Sierra, so the golf course is right there, which was a blessing during COVID because we could be outdoors a lot and everywhere else. So my husband and son, 11-year-old, they're very avid golfers, so they're out almost every day. And then I love the water. I love the ocean, I love the river, I love the lake, so you'll find me wherever there's water. I could live in, yeah.
Well, hopefully those are the easiest questions.
Yeah, they're all
Thank
easy.
you. Let's give them a round of applause. And thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and please, anything you learn, pass it on. That's our hardest challenge, is passing on information. Sorry?
Identify yourselves.
Oh, I'm Shavati, I'm the public sector manager. This is Larry.
Larry Picard, I'm the district manager for Nevada County area for waste management.
David Garcia, Nevada County Solid Waste Program Manager.
And thank the union.
Yes. And Sierra College
Thank you.
community.
Thank you.